Welcome back, brothers and sisters, as we continue our journey through the book of John. And today we'll be looking at John chapter 2, verses 1 to 5. On the third day, there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the wedding with his disciples. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." This is the word of the Lord. The significance of this narrative outlines the first miracle of Jesus Christ. A miracle that brought water to wine was distributed to all who were there, but did not know. The guests did not know what had happened, but enjoyed the wine. Jesus' action was witnessed by those nearby, and they saw what had happened. Not even the host knew. Jesus' first miracle in the Gospel of John was a private one, known only to his disciples and some servants, and probably Jesus' mother. Matthew had not yet been called to be one of the 12, explaining why the miracle is not recorded in the Synoptics. Of the 4 Gospel writers, only John was there. John used the Greek word signs, sēmeiōn, in verse 11, because he was seeking to draw attention away from the miracles as such and to point up their significance. A miracle is also a wonder, teras in Greek, a power, dynamis, and a strange event, paradoxos. Turning water into wine was the first of 35 recorded miracles Jesus performed. On the third day probably means 3 days after the calling of Philip and Nathanael. It would have taken a couple of days to reach Cana in Galilee from Bethany near Jericho of Judea. Cana was near Nazareth, though his exact location is unknown. Jesus' mother was there, but John did not give her a name as cross-reference in John chapter 2 verse 12, chapter 6 verse 42, chapter 19 verse 25 to 27. In his gospel, John never named himself or the mother of Jesus. Jesus' mother went to the home of the beloved disciple John in chapter 19 verse 27 in relation to the crucifixion. Wedding feasts often lasted 7 days. The feast allowed the groom's taking of his bride to his home or his father's house before the consummation of the marriage. When the supply of the wine was used up, Mary turned to Jesus, hoping that he would solve the problem. Did Mary expect a miracle? In light of verse 11, this is not likely. Mary had not yet seen any miracles done by the Son. Edward A. Bloom, in his book John, in the Bible Knowledge Commentary and Exposition of the Scriptures, outlines the narrative concerning Mary. The word woman applied to his mother may seem strange to a modern reader, but it was a polite, kind expression. However, the clause, "Why do you involve me?" was a common expression in Greek that referred to a difference in realms or relations. Demons spoke these words when Christ confronted them. "What do you want with us?" in Mark chapter 1 verse 24. Or "What do you want with me?" in Mark chapter 5, verse 7. Mary had to learn a painful lesson, namely that Jesus was committed to God the Father's will, and the time of his manifestation was in the Father's hand. My time has not yet come. Or similar words occur 5 times in John chapter 2 verse 4, chapter 7 verse 6 and 8 and 30, in chapter 8 verse 20. Later, his time had come is mentioned 3 times in John chapter 12 verse 23, chapter 13 verse 1, and chapter 17 verse 1. Mary's response to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you," revealed her submission to her son, even though she did not fully understand, but she trusted him. As Christians, our expectations are unlimited. We often confer on the Lord all our wants and desires. Our expectations are limitless. And since our reasoning dictates our demands, we expect everything we wish to be delivered. Why? Our actions are dictated by a subjective cause that demands a response. However, claiming an objective link in the divine is a contradictory attitude buried in the folds of our self-righteous behavior. Our outward behavior displays an attitude of piety, but our inward spirit is tainted by darkness and sinful desires. It is a pure heart that binds the relationship with our Creator. Purity defines the spiritual foundation, grounded in the love of God. Love so great that we rejoice in the Lord's recomposing our futures through our failures. Can man even comprehend such a conscious behavior, dictated by a subconscious built on a loving grace? The loving grace of God that is bound within His love. For any mortal to say yes is a lie, because only when we put aside ourselves and submit fully to His absolutes can we then be empowered by the power of the Holy Spirit. Not in our ability, but the ability of God's divine intervention. Himself can we look through the lens of godly love. Hence the missing spiritual link that we in our mortal existence lacks. Only in the ability of God's essence, which is part of His image and likeness, can we walk righteously. As Adam was called to the priestly position over creation, and the Israelites called to be priestly examples for all nations, God Himself has descended and made us the temple of the spiritual hallway to walk along through the door opened by Jesus Christ. No guest knew what Jesus had done to turn water into wine, but we do. We stand alongside those who witnessed the miracle. The guests did not know that the celebration had been saved, but we already know Jesus Christ has saved us on the cross. Set aside ourselves and embrace the power of the Holy Spirit. Only in the acceptance of God in every being are we able to seek and find. Knock and the door will be opened. Ask and you shall receive. God bless.